Path of Exile is a dark fantasy action role-playing game first created in a garage. Over the years, it has experienced numerous expansions, all of which I'm seeking to cover in full in this set of videos, the PoE 1 Flashback Series. That's right, confirmed since the last part on 1.2 Forsaken Masters, it's now a fact that Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2 are entirely separate games. Regardless, we're continuing on. I'll be covering every single expansion to PoE 1 leading up to the launch of PoE 2 and beyond, as both of the games should be updated concurrently. It's quite the task, but as you've seen so far in our flashbacks, grinding your games is up to tackling the impossible. I am too. Before we delve into 1.3, a tremendous thank you to all the exiles who keep the channel alive. More on how you can support at the end. Now, without further ado, let's leap into PoE 1.3, Torment and Bloodlines. The first of two leagues introduced in 1.3, Torment took a spooky approach to adding buffs to monsters in all of Path of Exile's areas. This softcore league mechanic added brand new ghost monsters called tormented criminals into each and every zone. Lore-wise, these were fallen, tortured souls of Rayclast who couldn't handle what they'd done in life, so they decided to commit more crimes and death. The ghosts weren't threatening themselves. Instead, they could imbue normal, magic, rare, and unique monsters with powerful new statistics, abilities, and of course, as a positive for players, great possible rewards. These rewards were mainly huge bonuses to item quantity and rarity, though some specific modifiers caused certain classes of items to drop, like currency or maps. More specifically, these ghosts could touch normal and magic monsters and grip rare and unique monsters. The original touch and grip modifiers added to possessed monsters were marked by a wild green and appeared alongside other modifiers on monsters. Like Domination and Shrines before it, Torment carried a ton of varied ghosts with it. Unlike the former two pieces of content, we're not going to go over every single ghost type here today. However, here are a few iconic and highlighted tormented spirits instead. An Arsonist periodically casted 3 Fire Novas with a touch ability granting gain 25% of physical damage as extra fire damage, 10% chance to ignite, and plus 25% fire resistance, and a grip gift of gain 60% of physical damage as extra fire damage, 25% chance to ignite, plus 40% to fire resistance, and cast Firestorm, which leaves burning ground behind. A thief couldn't be mana or life leeched with a touch that granted removes 10% of mana on hit, and a grip that gifted Steel, Power, Frenzy, and Endurance charges on hit, has 100% chance to remove flask effects on hit, removes 20% of mana on hit, and monster drops 5 to 10 additional rings or amulets. This was an extremely frightening modifier to fight. A cannibal consumed nearby corpses to heal with a touch that gave normal or magic mobs the exact same ability, and a grip that imbued rare or unique monsters with the additional modifiers of 500% of damage leached as life, 100% increased total recovery per second from life leech, gains corpse devouring, and periodically summons cannibals' devoted minions. 3 uniques were specific to Torment League and not findable in its sister league, Bloodlines. These uniques introduced in 1.3 were Brutus's Lead Sprinkler, the Rat Cage, and Scold's Bridle. 2 of these items were and are phenomenal. We'll touch more on the Sprinkler in a bit. When Torment League ended on March 24th, 2015, it was quickly integrated into the core Path of Exile game with the next update. Although in present-day PoE, it definitely seems a bit outdated and could easily be replaced by another beloved currently gone league mechanic, back in the day, players loved tormented spirits. Not their pathing or AI, but the added challenge and rewards. However, the other league, Bloodlines, was not as beloved. We'll get to that in a moment. Outside of game, and a decent bit before 1.3's launch, Path of Exile history was made. One of the game's founders wasn't always bald, cleanly shaved and iconic. Nope, Chris Wilson had hair, as showcased in all the thumbnails for this series before this one. As a Child's Play charity goal, Chris Wilson pledged he would shave his head entirely and go bald. The community surpassed the goal, raising $25,610, and Chris Wilson instantly delivered in the most compelling way possible. GGG released a video of Chris Wilson's first haircut, showing him walking from their office to a hairdresser. The result, like Chris Wilson, was pure gold. Alright, back to the game. Like Nemesis a while before it, 1.3's second league, Bloodlines, brought a batch of brand new monster modifiers to Path of Exile. However, unlike Nemesis, Bloodlines focused on introducing plenty of new modifiers to magic monsters, not rares. Entire packs would hold quite influential combat modifiers, though some would affect the battlefield when the pack died, and not while they were standing and alive. Of course, players disliked this as they do today. This hardcore league ripped quite a few people with beautiful on-death monster modifiers. Let's glance at a batch. Heralds of the Obelisk ensured each corpse in a monster pack left an unkillable obelisk that casted a random lightning spell. The obelisks disappeared once the entire pack was killed. Absolutely brilliant. Corrupted Bloodline added the following to monsters. When hit, applies Corrupted Blood to the attacker. Corrupted Blood is a debuff that inflicts physical damage over time and stacks up to 10 times. We love Corrupted Blood, don't we? Union of Souls added. When killed, passes a buff to all remaining mobs that increases size and gives them more life, damage, and defense. Sounds quite like Soul Eater, yeah? Void Spawn of Abaxoth gave monsters summons a unique Beyond Demon when the entire pack is killed. Now, this is what I like to see. Pairing new League mechanics with old League mechanics. Keepers of the Trove gave, each monster drops a rare item of the same type. This would lead to huge loot explosions that could have satisfying results, like 20 rare glove or body armor bases. Despite pushback from players, Bloodlines went core with the next expansion's launch with a few changes. While it definitely added more interactivity to Magic monster combat, it also sometimes infuriated players with the novel concept of specific and peculiar on-death effects. Oh, how sweet those past exiles were. We'll see more of this in good time, as Bloodlines was removed as a concept all the way in PoE 3.18 as it was rolled into a different beast. 1.3 added a grand total of 26 new unique items to the game on launch, but were any of them actually good? Plus, are they used in modern-day Path of Exile? The answer to both, thankfully, is yes. Brutus's Lead Sprinkler hit PoE in 1.3 as I mentioned before. When it was first added, it was merely a cool scepter that added fire damage against ignited enemies. It wouldn't be until patch 2.6 that it became one of the premier go-to items for strength stacking characters, when that mod disappeared and it gained the awesome modifier of adds 2 to 4 fire damage to attacks per 10 strength. Haste of Hate was another addition. Its two modifiers greatly added to the defense and damage of many elemental builds. They were 30% of physical damage from hits taken as cold damage during Flask effect, and gain 30% of physical damage as extra cold damage during effect. Again, this is still a highly sought after item for a big damage boost in PoE of the present. Back in the day, by the way, its base type, Sapphire Flasks, added to maximum cold resistance. Now, it merely reduces cold damage taken by 20%. Grinding Gear Games sought to iterate on their Forsaken Masters expansion 1.2 with the addition of a new master, Leo Redmane, Master of the Arena. Infamous as a duelist who murdered his defeated combatants in cold blood, he revolved around player versus player objectives and missions. His unique hideout used the Garden Tile set, his signature crafting mod was a global damage increase, and his quite odd metacrafting modifier was cannot roll mods with required level above 28. Sort of like Bloodlines, people did not really like Leo. And, this is because he forced people into PvP. Let's look at this game mode's real last gasp in PoE right now. Yes, fellow exiles, 1.3 was Path of Exile's final great attempt at integrating player versus player mechanics into the core of the game. The developers added the ability to make PvP-only characters, set up a rating system on a character-by-character basis, brought in formal PvP tournaments that awarded alternate art unique items, and introduced a few non-formal tournament styles too. Free-for-all tournaments in the Sarn Arena were a massive brawl in which you earned points by killing other characters. If you died, you were sent to a new arena to continue the fight. In Blitz tournaments, you fought another character in a duel. Your goal was to get as many victories as possible within a time limit. Swiss tournaments were more official. They used character rating to match you against comparable opponents in a best of 7 format. There was even another game mode, Capture the Flag, in which your goal wasn't to defeat opponents, but to bring an object to your base to win. PvP was not well received, and it's easy to see why. You cannot truly balance PvP in an ARPG like PoE, wherein there are numerous possibilities. Plus, insta-gibbing is very likely. GGG only ran 2 ever PvP seasons in PoE, both during this particular expansion. PvP Season 1 between December 20th, 2014 and January 18th, 2015, and PvP Season 2 between February 15th and March 16th, 2015. While PvP is still available even to this day, at the end of this update, Chris Wilson came out and let everyone know they wouldn't be focusing on PvP anymore at the expense of PvE content. That's held true to the present. Concurrent to the 26 new uniques, 1.3 opened up a few new build options with a set of new gems. At the absolute top were the quartet of Kinetic Blast, Blink Arrow, Mirror Arrow, and Static Strike. Kinetic Blast fired a projectile from a wand that caused a series of small explosions surrounding its point of impact. Each damaged enemies caught in the area. It's still used a ton today in PoE 1. Blink Arrow fired an arrow at the target destination. When the arrow landed, you were teleported to it, and a clone was summoned at your old location. The The clone was a minion that used your bow and quiver. This was powerful and enabled a few meme builds too. Mirror Arrow was quite similar, it just didn't teleport your character. Static Strike struck your enemies and built up static energy on you. This energy damaged enemies around you when it expired. This was a cool new lightning ability that could be used in melee. Here's a huge quality of life feature added in 1.3, stash item highlighting. You could now search your stash for items in the search bar and they'd be highlighted while all other items would fade out. This was a wonderful feature add from GGG. On top of that big quality of life addition, 1.3 gave players a slew of other quality of life features. A notification setting screen allowed you to choose which notifications you received and which ones you didn't, like friends coming online or events starting. Master mission balance was improved. Masters now granted higher reputation and higher level missions. Some master specific crafting mods were now available at lower master levels, and Xana as a master was made more accessible. People wanted to run more maps. Auras and aura-like effects could now affect totems, too. As with every other PoE expansion before 1.3, GGG further balanced the game, or rather, tried to balance it and open up new opportunities for character builds. Here are some select highlights. The Templar, Marauder, and Duelist starting areas were completely reworked. Brand new elemental and weapon clusters were added to the outskirts of the tree, allowing characters to specialize in very specific types of damage. Those are still there today. All shields had their base block chance reduced, as reaching the 75% max block chance was way too easy for many characters and quite efficient at higher levels. Lots of unique items had minor tweaks, but the coolest was the addition of the Rampage mechanic on Rampage-specific unique items being always active while you had them equipped. This brought back the kill streaks of Rampage League in full. Then, we have the bugs and bug fixes. For a time, if you had the Blood Magic Keystone, your mana orb showed as fully reserved. That was fixed. Headhunter also granted rare monster modifiers multiple times. That was gone. A funny one is the /remaining command bugging out if you shattered frozen monsters. The game wouldn't see them as actually killed, so it'd show way more remaining monsters in the area than the real amount. Quickly after launch, the developers released a series of minor patches to squash some more bugs and add content to the game. The day after launch on December 13, 2014, they patched in a fix to Dominating Blow, as the expansion accidentally took away its melee skill classification. 5 days later, on December 18th, 1.3.0D, a few PvP changes were made, like a damage penalty on Flicker Strike of 30%. On December 22nd, GGG added event notice boards to all ACT towns. They allowed people to access the events and PvP panel without using the game UI. They're still there to this day. 1.3.0H on December 29th made Tormented Spirits much more common in endgame maps. They weren't spawning a lot before. 1.3.1 arrived on February 2nd, 2015 and had a lot riding with it. 5 new unique items hit the game, one of which was the Hall of Grandmasters unique map. This was a special map area which housed player-built exiles made by the players who purchased the Grandmaster supporter pack of the Forsaken Masters era. Yes, by the way, there were no new supporter packs for the 1.3 expansion. Players of course tried to design the most infuriating of the exiles to populate this 200 monster map. You could try to beat and farm it at the risk of your own sanity. Some more changes included Strongbox is now streaming out monsters instead of spawning them all instantly, improvements to Tormented Spirit AI, and some big nerfs to Bloodlines modifiers. Oh, and the chicken pet from the MTX store now had audio. To close out this expansion, 1.3.1E added the Challenger Trophy for Torment and Bloodline Leagues. This was a staple of challenge leagues from now on, a totem that would build up the more challenges you completed in the league that was placeable in your hideout. There were only 8 challenges in each of these leagues, and like the expansion before it, the first 50 people in each ladder to beat all 8 were sent an exclusive Challenge League t-shirt. Some challenges in 1.3 included attain character level 85 with at least 3 different classes, kill monster packs with each of the new Bloodline mods, kill each of the new Tormented Spirits, fully clear most of the maps in the game, including the areas housing Atsiri, and a few challenges including past League mechanics now in the core game, like the Strong Boxes of Ambush and the Shrines of Domination. Finally, let's explore one of the coolest builds present in 1.3. Now, I'm a melee enjoyer myself, so when I saw a big build of Torment League was melee, I knew I needed to highlight it. A prolific build maker back in the day, Gouda, released an iconic Ground Slam duelist build using a rare mace and a unique sword, Prismatic Eclipse. Its primary damage skill was of course Ground Slam, which gave it excellent clear. For defense, it used the Vengeance skill, which counterattacked enemies when hit, granting the character endurance charges. Plus, it had good block chance, high life regeneration, and went for life leech on all gear possible. This left plenty of links in its main skill, Ground Slam, to stack damage and attack speed. The build also utilized Val Cyclone to suck in monsters like Tormented Spirits before pummeling them with super fast Ground Slam hits. Yes, this was a legit strategy. If I was playing back in the day, this would have been my go-to build. It looks like a ton of fun. But I wasn't playing back then. However, we're getting closer and closer to where I did begin to play. In fact, the next part of the PoE1 Flashback series marks a huge jump in expansion number and quality. 1.3 would be the final expansion of the 1.0 era. The next expansion would mark the beginning of the 2.0 era and bring with it a host of new features, content, and exciting ways to build your Path of Exile character. I'll see you in the next part of the PoE1 Flashback series. Once again, huge shout out to every exile who supports the channel. You can help the channel grow by giving this video a like, hitting the subscribe button, turning on the bell, and clearing each link in the description, from our awesome Discord server to my Patreon and Twitch. There's a ton more PoE content incoming. To all those who've watched until this ultimate moment, Tala Moana.